Welcome back to Everything House. It's Marco again. We are talking today about the Milwaukee Fuel 7¼ inch circular saw. Now, I just got this, okay? I'm very excited about it. I bought it as a replacement to the 6½ inch Milwaukee circular saw I had that was not Fuel, it was a regular, I guess, base model, standard model. And just for tinkering around with it here in the shop, wow, it's got a lot more power. I can't wait to get this thing on the job site and start ripping some boards. Yeah, it is a Fuel. The other one wasn't. One of the differences on this particular saw is it does have worm drive. So worm drive creates more torque. It's a special. You can Google it and see a whole schematic. But it has a different torque system and motor to gear ratio that produces a lot more torque. So you can cut a lot thicker, more denser things. So the uses, okay, for a circular saw is you can use it for everything. Anything you want to cut wood-wise, or composite, or softer things. You're not cutting metal or steel or anything like that. You can go ahead and cut into drywall if you need. Just set your depth setting so you're not cutting into something you shouldn't. But yeah, it's an invaluable tool. If you're going to do any kind of major construction, remodeling, you need a circular saw. Straight, hands down. I decided to go with the battery one. The M18 is the platform for all my tools because it does have enough power, similar to that of a corded. And the batteries do last a long time on the M18 platform, I've noticed, for my needs. All right. So that's the general usage. Okay. Now parts. So circular saw, it's a very similar design as a lot of them. Okay. So here you're going to have your degree, your bevel. Okay. So just go ahead and open that up, and then this is it if you want to cut perfect 90. Straight up and down. If you want to throw a 45 into something, you can. All right. Go ahead and lock it down, and now you're cutting at a 45. Okay. You're cutting something that way. Most of the time, you're going to be cutting like this, 90% of the time. Something very, very, very important that nobody can, I haven't heard stressed enough, okay, is your depth setting. So any kind of circular saw, whether it's a table saw or a circular saw, you want to be cognizant of the thickness of the item you're cutting. So for instance, if it's a 2x4, right, it's 1¼ inch. That's another video. I don't know why they decided to do that, but that's how it's been since like the 70s. 2 inches means 1¼ inch. So you need to go to your depth setting here, and you need to set it to a little bit farther than 1¼ inch. I'm sorry, 1½ inch. So there's 1½ inch, we're going to go 1¾ inch, a little bit less. So that means the saw blade, we got no battery, all right, so relax guys. So that means the saw blade, all right, is going to only extend a little bit past the 2x4 if you're cutting it, right? Whatever it is. If you're ripping a 1/2 inch sheet, set it to a little bit more than 1/2 inch. Why is that important? Because say you have this ripped all the way up, okay, and you're cutting something, the more blade that contacts the material you're cutting will cause the blade to warm up more, okay? So say you're only cutting something real thin. So all of this blade now is making contact as it's spinning, and it's going to cause the blade to get really hot, maybe expand, maybe even destroy the blade, okay? That's very, very important, especially if you're using a circular saw a lot that day. Say you're ripping a whole bunch of plywood for flooring or your whatever. It's important because you're gonna ruin the blade, it's not going to cut as well, and then it'll start to bind on you, okay, where the blade is actually going to get stuck in the wood, okay, and then that's when accidents can happen. Because then when you start any tool you're going to cut something with, if you're fighting it, it's usually because the tool is underpowered or the blade is dull, right? And that's when accidents happen, all right? So again, just make sure you're very cognizant of the depth setting you have. And this tool, it's right here. Pull that, move your foot. There you go. Here's your shield release. Shield release, that works. Yeah, so a lot of circular saws are going to have very similar style. This one in particular has a joist hook, okay? Should you need to go ahead and hang it on something, right, while you're working, it's convenient. Not a lot have that. Cool. You have a trigger here, okay? Won't activate until you push this down, okay? It's for left or righty, all right? And then it'll go ahead and fire when you have a battery in it. Okay, another thing that's cool, and don't buy a tool unless they give you this because that really shows that they care. So to change the blade on this, you need a tool, all right? On this saw, they give you the tool and a spot to put it right here. It's great, okay? Goes right there, so when you need it, pull it out, all right? Then you go ahead and change your blade. Oh, another thing to note is that this 7 1/4, because it's 7 1/4, and this particular saw requires it's called a diamond arbor. What does that mean? So in the middle of the blade, there's an actual diamond shape in the middle instead of a regular circle. Upon learning that, I almost did not buy this saw because I didn't want to have to go find blades that have a diamond arbor, okay? Most saws are just going to be a regular circle, all right? There's going to be a regular circle here. So I almost was this close to not buying it. And then I went ahead and looked at some of the blades. I looked at the Diablo ones were in front of me. And they actually have a detent, a little cutout here, okay? Where you can go ahead and take a screwdriver and pop out the middle. And it changes the arbor size from a circle to a diamond. So you can go ahead and use it then. So don't be afraid. Because the last thing I wanted to do is I hate when anything you buy is arbitrary just for that brand, right? Which is one of the reasons why I'll never do Apple. Because once you get into Apple, you got to stay with Apple. Different video. So I wanted something that I can go ahead and use any blade I need, right? So that was definitely a benefit to hear that, all right? Let's go ahead and put her back in. All right. Pay attention to what direction you put it in. Most of the time, the way they make saw blades, you're going to have the brand name face you, right? They're not gonna manufacture it, so it's hiding the name of the blade. So 90% of the time, but just pay attention of what direction you're putting it in, okay? And then also, almost all circular blades have reverse thread on the bolt that holds the blade in. So you're gonna have to go opposite. So I have the blade stop right here, okay? You're gonna push that in and go ahead and rotate it until it stops you. There it is, they grabbed. And then once it grabs, okay, you just need to go a little bit past where it grabs, okay? Not crazy, just a little bit. All right, just like, and another thing, typically you're gonna get hurt more when you use big muscle groups to make movements, okay? So if you're trying to push something and use your entire arm to push it, when it slips, your whole arm goes flying, right? Whereas if you just use your fingers, when it slips, your arm's not gonna go flying. So for example, instead of using my whole arm to pull on this bolt to tighten it up, if it slips, my hand's gonna go, right? Whereas instead, if I use the base here and just squeeze, it's a lot safer, all right? You'll learn that after you get hurt enough. Then you'll know, how can I do this without potentially busting a knuckle and then have to deal with a busted knuckle for 2 weeks? Yeah, one more thing I wanted to note to tell you guys is it does have an electric brake, right? Which is awesome. It's definitely a time saver. Electric brake looks like this. So you go ahead and pull the trigger. It stops. See how fast it stops? If it didn't have an electric brake, you got to wait for it to stop spinning before you set it down, because that's good practice. And technically, when you go to cut, this is going to slam forward. So even if it's still spinning, you can set it down. Don't do that, okay? Do not do that. Always wait for the blade to stop, because what inevitably happens is after a bunch of cuts all day long, sawdust, dirt, whatever you're cutting will get in here, all right? And then you'll make your cut. It'll still be spinning, and then you go to set it down, and it can either grab the floor and run, or if you're working on a finished surface, you just ruin the hardwood floor, you scratch a tile, whatever, all right? So stop doing that. So because it has an electric brake, it really did kind of fix that problem. Just go ahead and let it stop, and then put it down. And then set it down, all right? The LED light is nice. I forgot to mention that it has that, so it'll cast a shadow on where you're cutting. So that is the Milwaukee 7 1/4 circular fuel drive circular saw with worm drive. Alrighty, so I can't wait to get it out on the job. So, anywho, thank you for watching. I appreciate any comments you may have. Like, subscribe if you haven't. Thank you for watching.